Jurassic Park 3 Minutes, where we'll be discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel, 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're back for minute 2 of Jurassic Park 3. New York Comic Con was this past weekend. We've got some new reveals for us collectors from Prime 1 Studios and Chronicle. But before we get to them, Iron Studios has been hinting for a little while, and they've finally got some photos up of the raptors in the kitchen set from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's right. They've got the 1/10 raptor set that's going to be in the kitchen, and like their breakout set, they're going to actually offer the pieces individually as well.
Oh,
so
really?
So you can buy the whole set together. Comes on a beautiful rock base. Tim's lying there, trying to hide from the raptors. One of them's looking back, and the other one's kind of sticking his tongue out at a ladle.
Mm.
And the great thing is that they're actually going to sell each raptor individually as well for $100.
Wow.
Which I think is going to be wonderful on the wall, and I'm already planning on buying 2 because they actually came out with a third raptor that is individual, that is not part of the set. It's the raptor that kind of just before the T-Rex snaps it in his mouth. It's the one that's about to jump onto Grant, Lex, Tim, and Ellie.
Yeah.
And it's in a crouching position with its mouth open, and it just looks so dynamic and beautiful.
Yeah, after it comes through the tarp and sort of goes into that attack position as it sort of goes after the Rex. But yeah, and this looks fantastic. Like, you've got that end section of the kitchen bench with they've got all the plates and utensils and everything in the cupboard. So if it comes with all that, that's going to be a fantastic little bit of detail. And I'd have to have a look at the scene from the film to see if all that's there. But as you said, like, it's got the soup ladle on the ground. You've got that other one crouching around the corner, licking it, about to sniff, to find Tim seated around the corner, and that other one up on top, sort of looking back in the direction of Lex, where she was getting into that little dumbwaiter or what have you. But this looks fantastic. Those raptors look gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if there's some sort of rod or something in the feet that goes into the base. Especially for the one that's sort of crouching around the corner, licking the what do you call it? I've completely lost it. What do you call a soup spoon? Ladle. Reaching around the corner to lick the ladle, but it's really leaning forward and on the balls of its feet. Like, that's got to be some sort of base rods or something to hold it in that pose, in that position.
I do know when you buy them individually, they each come with a base.
Mm.
So they possibly do, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a pretty fancy base, but it's not like this. It's not this diorama base, you know?
Mm.
I'd have to look up the pictures that I post, and I will, of course, post the pictures of these and the links to them when this mini goes live.
Yeah, well, the Tyrannosaur with the breakout, it's sort of come with a rocky base that mimics the way the Explorer was laying, just so because that pose is locked in the figure.
So I found the picture. The base here that comes with the individual raptors. It's like a metallic kind of base with the Jurassic Park logo, and it's pentagonal shaped.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this raises one question. We know which raptors we prefer to see in statue form. What scene could they use from The Lost World to do some sort of, even if it's just a simple repaint of these raptors into that tiger stripe design? Maybe just the power pole with Ian behind it and Sarah and Kelly and the raptor sort of crouching on it or something. But then you'd need the truck.
I was thinking the one where the 2 raptors are fighting and Sarah's kind of pressed up against.
Oh yeah, yep.
You wouldn't really have to do the entire worker village to do that. You just have to do the roof base.
Hey! We're hoping here. Let's hope for a whole worker village.
Don't worry, I've been hoping for a whole worker village diorama since Chronicle announced the visitor center, which I have no idea what's going to happen with now,
Yeah.
actually, because they haven't brought it up since.
Yeah. No, the best we've got's that Micro Machines playset. Unfortunately, but yeah, well that's it. You only need a couple of inches of that wall of the kiln shed to be
Hmm.
behind her, um, and she'd be leaning up against, and yeah, just have the two raptors locked in
Yeah,
mortal
duking it
combat.
out, and you could easily just do the male and the female. I mean, you'd be perfect.
Yep, yep. Yeah, because a lot of the other scenes with the raptors would involve sort of too much of an environment, either inside the kiln shed,
Hmm.
especially if you're looking at something like the gymnastics scene, or. But then I don't think that would be as iconic. What is iconic for haters more than something like the kitchen.
Raptors in the long grass
Yeah.
is perhaps one of the most iconic raptor scenes in the franchise. I mean, everybody quotes it, everybody refers to it. It's one of the ultimate Velociraptor references used in um,
Mm.
Hollywood. That would be another one, but it'd be a lot harder to pull off just because you have all the individual grass pieces to have to work with, and I don't see them doing something and keeping it economical like they did the um, the kitchen
Mm.
diorama here.
Well, the biggest issue there would be sort of mastering how you'd do that grass. But I was sort of thinking, well, you're going to need then 4 or 5 raptors in the grass, or depending what scene from that, if you got any humans as well. But just simply that production
Mm-hmm.
shot of that male with its head above the grass and the blood dripping from its jaws.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, where we see, or even the film shot where we see the two raptors' heads rise up
Mm.
above the grass, and we just get that behind shot of them watching them watching the hunters going into the long grass.
Yeah, because like we're going to see in a minute with Chronicle, you can do that printed backdrop of the grass going off in the distance with the hunters and the flashlights or whatever, and just have something in the foreground. You could even
Hmm.
cheat and just not have the whole body, have sort of from the shoulders up, and just have a wall of grass in front of the sort of torso or something. Anyway, we're starting to dream.
And I really have to commend the sculpts on these figures, just because, I mean, I've seen a lot of times where the sculptures miss details. These have all of
Mhm.
them. They have the teeth right. They have the color right. They have everything right. I mean, it's perfect.
Mm. Yeah, it's sort of the breakout set as well. Sort of the humans, they're close. They're not sort of the
Mhm.
Hot Toys closeness, but you're not paying the price for a 12-inch, or in this case, probably 6 or 7-inch Tim Murphy in high detail, like the clothing and that is, and just the Alan's neck handkerchief bandana. What?
On his
Yeah, around
hand,
his
yeah. I
head.
mean, the facial details could be a little better. I can see what they're going
Mm,
for, but it kind of almost looks like he has eyeshadow on. But everything else outside of the eye detail looks perfect, spot
yeah,
on, right out of the
yeah.
movie.
And that's the thing. You look at this and you know exactly what it is, even though those
Hmm.
features are a little bit off. Like just I as most of the fans of the films, you're sort of looking for that animal detail, not so much the human character detail anyway. So, but no, that looks fantastic.
Hmm.
Moving over to Chronicle Collectibles briefly, they showed off 2 pieces at NYCC this past weekend. One of them something they'd hinted at a little while ago, which is the what are they calling it? The Rotunda T-Rex in 1/9 scale.
Hmm. And they've been hinting about this one for quite a while,
Mm,
actually.
yep. And there's one sideshow, I think it was, or Hot Toys done one probably 10 years ago now.
Yeah, sideshow was, and the origin the promotional images of it were like the right colors. It had beautiful sculpt. It was all that. The sculpt was there when the final product came out, but somewhere something got lost in translation because, well, dang it, they painted them green.
Yep. Yep. We've talked before too about how Universal have loved signing off on the green versions of the T-Rexes.
Yep, yep. And I mean, dang it all, is if you repainted it, it'd be a beautiful rendition. It's not exactly 100% accurate to the scene, but it's still beautiful. I mean, they got the one raptor limp in the T-Rex's mouth, but other raptors attacking the T-Rex. I mean, right away when you're looking at the scene what they're
Mm.
going for.
Well, and that's sort of just looking at the price quickly, $13.49 US for this figure, and that's sort of what you can get that original for now if you find it luckily on eBay or something like that, or maybe even Amazon. That's sort of what the second-hand market for that figure is, or that statue, and you get the raptors on the back. Yes, it's not an exact pose from the film, but just having that, yeah, as I said, that limp raptor in its mouth, the other two on its back attacking. I think that banner looks better. There's something with this banner. I don't know. It's probably screen accurate, but it doesn't look. It looks too light or too clean or something.
On
On the Chronicle, yeah, the Chronicle banner.
This one has actually been kind of picked apart on the Chronicle Collection subform of statue form.
Okay.
And I can honestly see why. I can kind of agree with a lot of the criticism on this one. A lot of people are saying that the body's kind of too large and the neck is way too short. And I really have to agree with them. When you look at the scene, that neck needs to be longer.
I was going to ask you about the proportions on it, because, yeah, just something that does seem off. Even sort of how thick the tail is when it comes around in comparison to the feet and that.
Well, the tail is another part to it. It seems too short.
Yeah, and curvy.
I mean, I can understand trying to keep the base of it kind of simple in a way that you want to be able to box it up and not have pieces kind of just sticking out. But at the same time, it looks like they almost took inspiration from the Papo T-Rex from this one.
Yeah, and that might be because it's a 22.5-inch diameter base. Maybe if they went out to 23 inches or 24 inches just to get a little bit more space. Even though it's not going to ship on its stand, the stand will be in there separately. But I don't know. I think I still prefer that Sideshow one, even though the colour's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Although that stand is that's fantastic. Just it's very Jurassic Park Visitor Centre in feel and design. Having the skeletons in what look like the wood grain or in the rock is fantastic. If I can buy that base on its own, I'd be buying it on its own. Just maybe for even to put the breakout T-Rex on. I don't know.
No, another thing about it is that what was I going to say? Oh, it's huge.
Oh.
I think people posted a picture of their social media, head of social media or whatever, Heather Ross. I forget her position, but she answers like emails. She's PR. She's every all that kind of little stuff for the company. And she must have the strength of 10 men because it's huge. I mean, it's got to be at least 3 feet tall.
I was going to bring that up. It's not in the photos here I'm looking at, but I did see it before when I was looking for the links to the news story. She's holding that massive thing, and I know like how heavy the Breakout Rex is, and it's nowhere near as big as this. Even the base is nowhere as big as this. Like, she seems to be holding it fairly easy, and that's not. I don't want to put anything on her ability to sort of hold heavy things. I can't hold anything heavy for any long. My shoulders are buggered, but it just the size of it, like she's holding it waist height and the head's up near her head. It's just this thing is massive. Like they've only 22 inches tall on a 22.5-inch diameter base, so that sort of gives you a sort of an idea of how tall and wide it's going to be. And that's what I was thinking. Have they gone to some sort of other building sort of materials and not the polystone? Could it be anything else that's a lighter material that's just as easy to sculpt?
I'm thinking they must have, because I mean, this thing would have to weigh at least 100 pounds, you know.
Well, even shipping, I had to pay $160 Australian, which would be which way you go up or down? Down. So it'd probably be 120, 130 US to ship that thing here, and that's the Breakout Rex. I don't have the weight of it off the top of my head, but that's nowhere near the size of this thing. If this is polystone, especially the stand, if that thing's polystone, then it's going to be over $200 to ship. Like, it's just amazing. It's the kind of thing you want to go and pick up at a local store. Oh.
I remember actually when the Lego Star Wars Star Destroyer, the Ultimate Collector series, came out, and my it was around 2012, and just so happened to coincide with my cousin's 5th birthday going to Disney World, and I remember my parents buying it at Disney World and bringing it back on the plane just because it was easier to check it as a check on luggage than to ship it
Yeah.
back home and from Florida to Illinois.
Wow. Well, and that gets us into the next story here, the second big ticket item, Chronicle revealed. They let known, well, we'd seen earlier that they were going to do 1/6 scale characters from Jurassic Park. They had a Grant, they had Owen and Blue on display at a few conventions around that time, and then Grant, I know they were having some issues with the likeness. I don't think Sam Neill had done a final sign-off on it. And I don't even know what's happened with Owen and Blue. Has it even come out, or I can't recall.
I have no idea. I mean, there's a bunch of products that they've shown prototypes to. I've not heard about. There's the Final Showdown from Jurassic World that people are still asking about.
And that's not
with the Indominus versus
and that's not even going into some of the other things they've hinted at, like the visitor center and stuff like that. But then we heard word that maybe the 1/6 line was not going to continue anymore, and now we've got a new character from Chronicle, but it's not the sort of action figure you'd expect or the statue you'd expect. It's another sexy Malcolm. Now this is too close to Funko's release to sort of be on that bandwagon, I think. Because they had this thing painted at NYCC looking ready to ship. Whether it actually does ship this year, there's no information on this article here about it, but it looks fantastic. Again, sort of Chronicle or even Iron, if it's part of Ironhead or Iron Studios, but just sort of the face is close.
The face is close, yes. The chest could be hairier, but I mean that's neither here nor there.
But it's a fantastic look at Ian Malcolm. Again, on one of those fantastic bases of just the T-Rex skeleton in amongst the rock on the base.
Now that I'm a fan of everything. I love it. I think it looks amazing, but the base just does not go with the motif at all. This is Ian Malcolm. He doesn't like Jurassic Park. Don't go with the Jurassic Park motif on him. You know? I'm not sure what they would have used. Maybe a simple metallic base, kind of to imitate the table he's laying on. But I don't know. I'm not sure about the base on this one. This one is 1/4 scale. It's 10 inches tall and 18 inches in diameter.
Okay.
Base.
I wonder if I'm trying to think on the film. What did they have him laying on in the control room? Was it a computer desk?
I think it was.
Even just sort of like as the base, have like a computer desk with a screen on it showing the Jurassic Park map or something. Even just a...
I think he was laying on like the steps or something, because you can see...
Yeah, because he uses a handrail that runs along that. There's sort of like that elevated section that runs along. Hammond walks along it later earlier when he's grilling Nedry. So yeah, so you have that section of catwalk or that elevated section there, and then have a printout of those big round windows behind him as sort of the background in your display, or that wall of the control room anyway. Because one thing Chronicle was showing off with that T-Rex is a print of the rotunda, the inside of the visitor center in the background, which you'd want in the background of that statue anyway. But I've paying $30 for a Funko Sexy Malcolm was enough for me. I don't want to commit this sort of money to. I don't love the Malcolm character enough or this scene to to spend. Have they listed a price?
Yeah, it's on. I just closed the page. Sorry. It's $600.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that sort of takes away from the novelty of that $30 Funko Pop.
And
it's sort of just we want the characters. Yes, it's a important version of the character from the film. Yeah, I don't think I need it in my collection. Or that T-Rex again. If I had $1,300 to spend, I'd be buying the Sideshow one. Even if the colours, that green sort of irks you because it's not really a Jurassic Park T-Rex, they did do a bronze version as well. Now that, of course, is going to be a lot more expensive, but that way you've still got that sculpt, but just in the bronze colour, which is another possibility as well. And lastly, Prime 1 Studios, which I've only sort of dealt with before with some of the Transformers statues they've got, have released... I can't go, that statue forum's not working for me because I'm not signed on.
Oh,
That's alright.
okay.
I've seen the photo anyway.
Right.
We're getting some more dinosaur statues from Prime 1. They've released a head CG shot of the Stiggy Moloch.
Mm-hmm. It's in the sculpting phase right now, and the details look beautiful. I believe Prime 1 has been working with Julian Romeo of Jurassic Park Origins fame, and so a lot of his sculpts are like dead on. He's a absolute perfectionist, and I've seen some beautiful work coming out of him. And he's been working really heavily with Prime 1 Studios to bring some fantastic stuff. I know that the Raptors that they've also been working, that they also released, or are releasing alongside Blue, they're releasing Jurassic Park Raptors with diorama-style bases. Now, the bases have also got that same kind of Jurassic bone and rock motif as Chronicle stuff, but the dioramas are so beautiful, you know? And I mean, you can see all kinds of accurate plant material that we actually see in the movies. And like I said, the Raptors were sculpted by Julian Romeo, and then also the Breakout, Prime 1's own version of the Breakout diorama was also sculpted by Julian Romeo. So we got fans working now on the inside, and it's great to see see their work here.
Yep. And then just think, 5 years ago you had to go and buy a third-party animal from Papo or somewhere else, and then pay again to get someone to custom paint it for you just into some of those colours you love. And now we've got Prime 1 doing all these raptors and animals. You got Chronicle doing theirs. You got Iron Studios doing theirs. So the choice is out there for animal designs, and just getting some of those Jurassic dinosaurs in your collection, or starting a collection, building a collection of Jurassic dinosaurs.
It's a great time to be a Jurassic Park fan right now, just because, I mean, there's so much new merchandise coming out alone. Even when Jurassic Park was popular back in the late 90s and early 2000s still, we weren't getting this. We only dreamed of having this much collector's merchandise to work with. And now Prime 1's even coming out with a Spinosaurus diorama where it trashes the plane.
Oh, well.
And so the Spinosaurus one, let me bring up some pictures here real quick.
That's going to be a massive set.
Yeah, that one's going to be another one.
Although I suppose you could just have sort of the ruined part of the plane on the ground at its feet with its arms resting on it and have that aspect.
That's actually exactly what they have. They have the cockpit there with the Spinosaurus standing over. It looks like it's roaring. And you can see, again, it's only in CGI format, but you can see slash marks on the plane cockpit. You can see the kind of gnarled roots that they had in the movie.
Wow.
The same kind of leaf, those segmented leaves that they had, that was also used in the Velociraptor dioramas that they had. And it's just amazing to see. I mean, we're getting so much love for all of this franchise, you know?
Well, that's it. And even going into some other scenes from Jurassic Park 3, you get like just having that bridge section with the Pteranodon on it and Eric Kirby on the other side, and then all you need you don't need the ends of the bridge, you just need the middle section as your main display and base, and then just have a grey background to simulate the mist or the fog.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that, so... I don't think they'd go as far as having a raptor standing behind an embryonics tube, but they might have. Yeah, they might have something around that. Even just a raptor trying to bust through between the two to lunge at Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I hear that with Julian's Raptors, Prime One's also going to be releasing the Lost World Raptors as well as Jurassic Park 3 Raptors. So we do know it's coming.
Oh man. I need to find a new job, one that pays better.
I feel you, man.
Oh, wow.
I got my paycheck last Friday. I'm like, this is not going to do. I need more.
Oh, but what do you do? Sometimes the choices get smaller and smaller, unless you want to travel further and further.
Mm.
As we went on the first minute of Jurassic Park 3, Enrique was staring up at the Coast Guard plane flying overhead. As we start on minute 2, he puts his binoculars down and looks around nervously before tapping his boat captain on the shoulder and saying something to him in Spanish. At the 15-second mark, the boat powers across the water, crashing over the waves. At the 22-second mark, Enrique clasps parasol tow line onto the harness in front of Eric and says, "Here you go, my friend." Ben tells Enrique to make sure they get him as close as they can, and that he'll give him something extra if he makes it a good trip. Enrique replies, "I'll try to get you too close, but not too close. You don't want to be eaten." At the 46-second mark, after giving the thumbs up, Ben counts down from 3 and pulls the ripcord on the parachute, and the two are pulled suddenly off the back of the boat and up into the air. And as the minute ends, the tow cable spools out, sending the two guests higher into the air. And this ends the second minute of Jurassic Park 3.
And as we open up on the second minute of the film, we get the shot from before of the Coast Guard plane flying overhead, but it changes to reveal it being seen through a pair of binoculars, and the plane gets rather cartoonish here as you see it, see the reflection. I don't really think it's needed. We sort of, if you didn't allow for the break up between the 2 minutes, in the last minute you have the plane flying overhead, then it cuts down to a guy looking up at it through binoculars. I think you can safely assume this guy shouldn't be there, and he's watching the plane closely.
Well, then he looks around the side of him each time, and he's like, "Who are you looking for?"
Yeah. Are you looking to see if the plane radioed a Coast Guard, or are you expecting the boat to be flying in at a great rate of knots to capture you? Or
I know, but I mean, it's like it's a big island. You have a wall of green rock on one side of you, and open ocean on the other. You're gonna see anything that's coming.
Yeah. With
those binoculars.
Yeah, it's like the his direction for the scene was just look sheepish, pretend you're something's going to approach. But yeah, we do get the binoculars drop down here, and we get our first look at Enrique looking sheepishly around before he taps his boat operator on the shoulder and tells him something in Spanish, which I assume is "let's go" or "let's go," "let's get going," something along those lines, because the boat speeds off. But it's sort of I haven't watched the opening of the film in a long time, and I first straight up thought it was Uncle Rico from the Poland Dynamite, being a few years before that film come out, so I thought this might have been him without that long shaggy hair, but no, it's a completely different actor. I learned, thank you IMDb. But yeah, we get the camera pull back, and we can see the large boat floating in the ocean, and the island off in the background. You can already sort of see in some shots here of the coast where it's hazy or there's a light mist blowing to sort of set up what we're going to get a little bit later. And you can sort of understand here why they're not moving, because if you're in a boat and you're moving through the ocean or through the water, the wash behind you can be seen from the sky pretty easily.
Oh yeah, I mean it'll break the wave pattern very easily. You can see that, from miles up.
Yeah, it's almost the reverse of being able to see the ice trail behind a plane from the ground. It's just you can see a plane in the air, and the plane can see you.
Mm-hmm.
But sort of as we get a look here at the boat too, it's white. It's not blue. It's not. There's no camouflage involved whatsoever. It's just a white boat on a blue ocean.
But I mean, in choppier seas, that will become pretty invisible, hard to see, you know?
Yeah. No, I get that. But Enrique steps down under cover as the boat powers up and races forward towards the island. And you get a great shot looking down directly ahead of him as the boat cuts through the waves. And as we said before, you can clearly see that wash behind it. And then we get a shot where we cut to him clasping the tow rope to the harness on Eric, and tells him, "Here we go, my friend." And it's funny here too, like seeing, even though it's 2001, just seeing how old these life jackets and that look, and how much of a shoddy enterprise this seems to be, or he's just doing it on the cheap.
It's literally, I mean, I can imagine guys sitting on the beach with a sign that says "free dinosaur" or not for like exclusive dinosaur tour or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but then they've got it's reversible, so they can turn it around when the local law or something comes walking past.
Of course.
Just to keep the heat off them. Because even in the script, the boat's described as having a platform built onto the back of it just so they can launch this parasail, and it's got a second-hand winch on there that's off a different vehicle. Just how shoddy the Enterprise has been put together to get people out to essentially look at some cliffs, which we discussed in the trailer talk too. Just how much your hopes would be dashed when you got to the island and realise that you're not going to be able to see a lot.
Oh, everything, all the big dinosaurs, according to Hammond, are on the inside of the island, or all the big bad ones that you want to see on the inside of the island.
Mm.
You know, like the T-Rex.
Yeah, well,
and of course, Eric contradicts that, so we'll have to talk about that when that minute comes up.
Yeah. But then we get Ben yelling into the wind, "Make sure you get us as close as you can. I'll give you something extra if you make it a good trip." And Enrique replies to him, "Going to get you close, my friend, but not too close. You don't want to get eaten." And then Ben laughs at that response. It's because we get here a shot too as he gives a thumbs up, and he asks if they're ready. We get a cut back from the rear of the boat, powering ahead through the waves, and it almost looks like they're entering a lagoon. Well, they're definitely going between two sections of rock anyway. Obviously, the one on the left must be that little rocky, or must be some sort of rocky island out off the shore. But it's fair enough if they're going to go into the lagoon like where Malcolm's team was dropped off on the barge, then you're probably going to have a better chance of looking at or seeing animals. But then again, once you start getting to a river and it starts getting a bit more close, enclosed, you're not going to have the speed to keep the parasail up in the air, but it would give your visitors or the people you've brought along a better view anyway. And I'm sure if people started going back saying they were seeing dinosaurs, you'd have a lineup to come along, and you could probably afford some better gear and charge a bit more money to do it.
And probably attract unwanted attention.
Yeah, yep, true. Ben gives us the 3, 2, 1 countdown, pulls the ripcord of his parachute, and we get the front shot of the Dino-Soar parachute open as it pulls Ben and Eric off the back of the boat, and you get a clip glimpse of the telephone number 21283 Dino underneath Dino-Soar. So at least they've got a phone number, unless this parachute come from somewhere else. It might be the one thing they actually got made up for the Enterprise.
I don't know. I mean, it's clearly custom made. I'd have to imagine they probably had it made.
I suppose one thing I didn't look into as well, 120 miles. I think that's what it said before, how far Sauna was from Costa Rica, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's a long way to travel by boat. we discussed in the Lost World Minute about how long it took, or possibly took, the Venture to get back to California. But here you're sort of going from Costa Rica out to Sauna. It doesn't look like there's any refreshments on board or anything. It sort of sets up here that looks like it's just a day trip out, do your parasail, and turn around and come back.
I'm sure it is probably just a day trip. I mean, they were probably on vacation already, and then saw this and was like, sure, why not? You know?
We heard the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we get a series of shots of Ben and Eric being towed along behind the boat, enjoying themselves as the parasail's getting lifted up into the air even higher. But parasailing, David, have you ever been parasailing before?
Never been parasailing. I have no idea how it works.
Well, it's a little bit different to this. Normally, in normal parasailing, the chutes are a lot larger and rounder to make you more stable when you're up in the air. Because there's normally no control to the harness when when the rider's strapped in and up in the air. And I suppose here they need it to be a parachute for what we get later in the aviary and for when Ben unhooks the line so they can sort of drift in over the island. Because if it was a proper parasail, then especially with the ocean currents and the wind on the cliffs, they'd probably get blown out to sea, not towards the island. Which would make a short film unless they swum back in the shore. But yeah, for that and for later on when we get to the aviary, you really need whoever's wearing the parachute to be able to control it and steer it. So, and there's a couple of signs here that we're going to get to next minute where you can clearly see the parachute sort of moving all over the place because it's not as stable in the air as what a proper parasail would be. On one of the flyby scenes we get next minute, you can see it's clearly swinging left to right.
Yeah.
But yeah, as the minute ends, we get the shot of the tow cable continuing to be spooled out, or tow rope, I suppose it is. But just briefly looking at some of the script comparisons, the script opens the boat cutting across the ocean towards Sauna. There's no plane flying overhead. Well, none of that's been added for the film. And Enrique is described as an illegal parasail operator from Costa Rica. And I sort of don't really think it need that in the film. The point is that they're here on Sauna, which is the illegal point, not that he's sort of running the illegal operation of the parasail operator to start with.
Yeah.
Whether it's shady or not. But the boat itself sort of described as being a little bit different. It's got a makeshift platform on the back and 2 large hand winches on the deck. Or 2 large second-hand winches on the deck. And we also get a bit of a scene too where they're actually waiting for the boat to get to a specific speed before Enrique gestures to Ben to pull the ripcord. But yeah.
I mean, that would make more sense, right? I mean, I think it was kind of meant to kind of evoke Jaws 2 here. You know, the parasailing scene in Jaws 2?
Yes, I do.
I think it was kind of meant to invoke that, you know?
Yep. Yeah, well, it won't be the last time we get some sort of callbacks like that in the franchise. We've talked a lot about Fallen Kingdom and some of the stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of, you see in the film, you clearly see the boat gets up to speed, and it has got enough speed to pull the parachute out when Ben pulls the ripcord and lift him up into the air. So, again, a lot of things here they sort of cut and tighten up a lot for the final film, which gets us to the 96 or 94 minute runtime.
Mm-hmm. Which is another thing about this movie is, I mean, everybody knows the feature. Well, maybe not everybody, but the feature film length for a horror movie or a comedy is 90 minutes. And Jurassic Park is not a horror. Well, it's kind of a horror movie, but it's definitely not a comedy. You know, I mean, it's in its simplest, a sci-fi techno thriller is really what it is. It's sci-fi techno thriller. I mean, I can't really explain it much more than that. It's thrilling in the effect that it puts you on the edge of your seat without being straight horror.
Yeah.
You know? But, I mean, when you chop it down to 90 minutes, it's just really unnecessary. They didn't need to do that. I mean, there was a lot that they could have left in, especially considering the deleted scenes that we'll get to discussing in this podcast. You know?
Yeah, I think we've had the discussion before too, sort of to compare it to like Fallen Kingdom, where a lot of stuff they've cut a lot of I think as Bayona called it, fat off the end of a scene, or just sort of shortening scenes to tighten the editing up and keep that runtime down a little bit. But where here, just whole scenes, again, because of script issues and everything else, just weren't filmed. The whole nighttime stuff in the lab, for instance, and the chase out of there, and but we'll get to all that when we get to those minutes. But until then, David, anything else on minute 2?
No, I think we're good.
All right. If you want to get a hold of us, you can email us at lostworldminute.com. The main website is jurassicminutes.wordpress.com, and you can find the Lost World Minutes and Jurassic Minutes over on Facebook with the pages there. David, where are you on Twitter and Instagram?
Twitter, we are at Jurassic Minute. Instagram is the Jurassic Minutes Podcast.
Some of the worst things imaginable have been done with the best intentions.
This is how you make dinosaurs?
No. This is how you play God.
If we split up, I'm going with you guys.
Dinosaurs lived 65 million years ago. What is left of them is fossilized in the rocks, and it is in the rock that real scientists make real discoveries. Now, what John Hammond and InGen did at Jurassic Park is create genetically engineered theme park monsters, nothing more and nothing less.
Are you saying that you wouldn't want to get onto Isla Sorna and study them if you had the chance?
No force on earth or heaven could get me on that island.
You're Dusky.
Hello?
Charlie! Charlie!
Hello?
Charlie, take the phone to Mommy now! It's the dinosaur man!
Okay.